Hey there, sexy techies.
Hey, everybody. Good to be out of isolation.
Aww.
I had COVID again.
Boo.
It's been like 2 years. Wasn't as bad this time, but it was still not fun. And fortunately, nobody else got sick.
Yeah, thank God.
But we're back just in time to record another podcast.
Yes, COVID won't let you keep you down.
Will not keep me down.
Except you definitely are the man cold type of guy, which no shame. I mean, a lot of guys.
I was about like 95% sure that you were going to mention this man cold thing, so I did a little research.
Oh, wow. You just know me so well.
Yeah, so the man cold or man flu might be a real thing. It might not just be men exaggerating their illness.
Yeah. I feel like we saw the same study, but please enlighten me.
Yeah, well, actually, before we get into any of the studies, did you know that the Oxford English Dictionary actually added man flu to the dictionary recently?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to recognize it. It's true. It's there. It's real.
So I think they define it as a cold or similar minor ailment as experienced by a man who is regarded as exaggerating the severity of the symptoms. But there have been some studies done. I wouldn't say that they're conclusive, but there's a couple of things that I think everybody should be aware of. One is that there is a chance that vaccines produce a better antibody response in women than they do in men. What the studies show is that more testosterone may reduce the antibody response of a vaccine. So if we're talking about the actual flu, which people get vaccinated for, then men who have gotten the vaccine may have fewer antibodies than women. So naturally, they would have a worse response to the virus than women.
Yeah.
But then there's another piece, which is when you actually get a virus, and this, could be true for the flu virus or any other virus, estrogen may help lessen the immune response from the actual virus itself, so causing milder symptoms for women who generally have higher estrogen levels. So, what would you like to say to, on behalf of women, to me and all the men out there about this man cold or man flu thing?
Well, no, I mean, I can't speak for all women, but I do know that sometimes during cold and flu season, when me and my mom friends all get together and all our husbands happen to just be really ailing in bed, so sick. And, well, I can't speak for all women, but I am there for you because I know that it hurts you to be in bed.
You. Well, and now you know why. I mean,
yeah,
we're just biologically inferior in this way. Our immune systems.
Say that again?
We're just not as robust as you are.
You're what? You're what?
Our immune
inferior,
systems.
I think, is what you said.
I said it. Yeah. I mean, it's on record.
This little banter kind of reminds me of, so episode 3, I think this technically constitutes our podcast as a series now, right? 3 episodes. The first one is kind of like a test. I don't know. This is my theory. First one's kind of a test. Second one, maybe a fluke. I don't know. We just tried it out again. Third one, you mean business. Like you have a schedule. You know what you're doing every Wednesday.
Every Wednesday that we can.
So I like it. We have a series now. We have a little podcast series. And we've been getting some really great feedback. So it's really motivating to hear that from friends and family. One of the funny pieces of feedback that I've heard is people kind of like our banter back and forth. They can definitely see that we've been a long-standing married couple.
Why? Why is that?
Because I think our personalities are so polar opposite that they complement each other. Well, no one actually said that they're opposite, but like our personalities complement each other is what somebody had told me. And I agree with that because we have taken some personality assessments before. I love personality assessments.
I tolerate personality assessments.
Yes, I know. Your personality assessment results say that that's how you feel about them. But yeah, and so it made me think about personality testing. And did you know that it's like a $2 billion industry?
I do now.
Yeah? Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah, I didn't before, but it's big business.
It's huge. There's like more than 2,000 kinds of personality assessments out there in the world. But really only there's a few that are research based. But there's a lot of great things that these personality assessments do for businesses. So I'm seeing a lot of businesses, especially now.
Yeah. 80% of Fortune 500 companies use personality tests.
Wow. Right. So, companies have been using it for a while, whether it's for team building, whether it's to help in the hiring process, not necessarily determine who the candidate is that they hire, but it helps them to assess candidates sometimes. But now when they're looking at return to the office policies, let's say, everything closed down during COVID, they want
Not to go off on a tangent, but did you see that even Zoom is requiring people to come back to work in the office?
I did hear that.
Like, what the heck, Zoom?
They're putting themselves out of business.
Seriously.
Yeah, but I mean, it really kind of shows executives what motivates their employees, whether it is heads down, working by yourself, no need for the, extra holiday parties, socials, things like that. Or if they really like kind of, natural meeting places in person that you can bump into somebody in the office. So I like personality assessments because they really help eliminate any intrinsic biases that you have when you are hiring, basically. Instead of just reviewing a resume, seeing what their credentials are, what college they went to, things like that, you can blindly assess somebody and see them for, depending on what assessment you end up using, seeing them for the strengths that they inherently have in order to see if they will thrive in the environment and the responsibilities that you're looking to hire for. So I know, have you heard of Scotiabank?
No.
Yeah, so Scotiabank, they actually stopped looking at resumes of recent college grads, so their entry-level positions.
Oh, okay.
They stopped looking at them altogether.
Innovative.
And they have this new approach of bringing in more diverse candidates by utilizing professional personality assessments and other tools as well. It's not just based strictly on that. But since they started doing that, their new employees who are Black rose from 1% to 6%, and then over half of their new hires were women. So
wow.
I think it's pretty cool. Some people, again, just have these biases that they don't even necessarily know about. And when they see a resume, they already have this gut reaction to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And definitely seeing that the percentage of Black candidates went up by 5% when they did that makes sense. But I did read that some of the assessments, there's some pushback against some of them for exactly the opposite reason.
Yeah, sure.
I think I was, especially with Myers-Briggs. Myers-Briggs as an organization actually tells companies, do not use this as a this is not
right.
intended to be used as a hiring instrument. They've actually pulled the license from some organizations that have used it
I've heard that
as a instrument in the hiring process. And there's actually been some lawsuits against companies that have done so because it can unfairly discriminate against people.
So I did want to mention, so there are, again, a couple of research-backed personality assessments out there. One of them being an assessment called Plum. And it was co-founded by someone named Caitlin McGregor. And she attributes her initial zest for personality testing to an experiment that she conducted for a previous employer. So there were about 80 job applicants. She narrowed it down to two, one who stood out on a resume and one who stood out on a psychometric assessment. She ended up hiring both. Her boss said that the cost of picking the wrong person was $300,000, and the applicant who outperformed on the psychometric test rose to the company's top ranks within a year and a half.
Wow.
So she was like, I believe in, these psychometric tests. And so she, I'm not too familiar with Plum, but I know that that's one of the research-backed ones. That
okay. Yeah, I hadn't even heard of that one.
Yeah. I was looking at the origin of how personality assessments kind of started. So really when they started creating hard personality assessments, it happened to be in World War I. The Woodworth personal data sheet was created to screen soldiers who they might deem weaker in the field and susceptible to what was then called shell shock.
I read that. That was really fascinating. Yeah, basically PTSD, right?
Right. Yep. And it's really funny when I'm looking at the origin of some of the personality assessments that, I was looking into. A lot of them stem from coming out of war or going into war. Like it had something to do with either World War I or World War II.
Wars have a way of forcing countries to innovate, right? And do things a little differently. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah. I was also going to say wars also have a way of bringing out your natural tendencies in a split second.
That's definitely true as well.
In a time of high stress situation, what's going to eventually come out. So organizational psychologists initially found the big five, and these are kind of characteristics that seem to be consistent personality traits that are found in most of the assessments. So the five are openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. And so a lot of these assessments kind of rank you on a scale of those five. So there's 4 assessments that I just hear about all the time. I know there's so many more out there, and so I just feel like I'm not doing all these 2,000 personality assessments justice by only highlighting 4. But
no, I mean, there's too many, and they have such little market share.
Yeah. So the first one everybody kind of knows is Myers-Briggs, and that one was developed in World War II, war again, and that was actually started by, there was a woman and her daughter, Catherine Cook Briggs, and her daughter Isabel Myers. They were very obsessed with Carl Jung and his teachings and philosophies, that they just kind of took that and developed their own personality inventory despite having no psychological training. And they started distributing in 1943, and it's based on personal observations by Jung, and created as another way to assign jobs in World War II for women who wanted to be involved in the war workforce.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So some criticisms with Myers-Briggs is that it is very black and white. Again, so there's 4 categories. I'm an ENFJ. I know that. Did you ever take it?
Yes, I don't know what I am.
I would assume that you are all the opposite letters. I, extroversion versus introversion.
Okay. Yep. I think I'm an I, but like I agree. That's one of the problems with it. Like you're just one or the other, but like
right.
One I might be, way to the, let's say, left, and one could be pretty close to center, but like just to the left of
right.
E, right? So,
and you don't know that because it just spits out letters to
right.
you. And so the second measure is intuition versus perception. So do you judge things based on the information that you collect, or do you do it based on gut feeling? And mine is mostly gut feeling. I have a feeling that you love to collect all the data and all the arguments.
I don't know what would make you think that, but yes, probably. Hold on, let me do some research and I'll get back to you.
Exactly. F is feeling. So it's feeling versus sensing. And that's also...
I'm probably not feeling.
Yeah. And I'm feeling.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last one is J and P. So judgers versus perceivers. So judgers tend to be like organized and prepared. They like to stick to plans. Perceivers are kind of, they keep their options open and they like to act more spontaneously. So what's really interesting, and I know that you're looking at me being like, you're a P and not a J, but so I took this originally and I was an ENFJ.
Okay.
I took it again. I was an ENFP. I took it again. I was an ENFJ. So I believe that I am...
right on the cusp. Okay.
Yeah. And it's not so black and white for me in that realm.
Well, and that's another criticism of these tests is that they assume that your personality is static and that it can't change over time, right? Who's to say that your personality can't change as you experience different things throughout life?
That's true. But the argument to that is that it's not that your personality changes, it's that you've learned how to be more adaptable to things, which I know adaptability is a personality trait as well. However, it's the ease of adaptability comes more naturally to you. The way that I actually heard Myers-Briggs say that is that these are more tests of your predisposition, so how you are naturally wired.
Okay.
If you are going to work really hard to do something, you can get it done. It's like, you are more predisposed to write with your right hand. But if you, like, when push comes to shove, if you really needed to write with your left hand, you can try and you can work really hard at doing it, but you'll get tired and you'll want to, write with your right hand. That's the same thing. Like, if you are naturally an introvert, you can go out and network, you can win people over, you can be really great, but it could take a lot out of you. And at the end of the day, you need to go home and, be re-energized by, having that time to yourself. But I see what you're saying with that. That does lead me then to the next assessment, which I really like. It's called the predictive index. And so
the PI. I've heard you say that before.
Oh, I love me some PI. So this was created in 1942. So Arnold Daniels was in the war in the U.S. Army Air Corps. He was shipped off to England, and he was placed as a flight navigator, and his team logged more than 30 missions, all without a single combat casualty. So when the commanders noted the team's record, they sent a psychologist out to work with Daniels to study just what made their teamwork so successful.
Yeah, wow.
And so so then he started learning more about psychometric testing, and it became his passion. He was solving business problems through the lens of understanding individuals. They don't actually say like what the makeup of his team ended up being, but it started him thinking about what does it take to be successful in certain roles. And so in 1952, he released the first predictive index assessment. And then in 3 years later, he founded PI Worldwide, which is now called the Predictive Index. So that has been the subject of nearly 500 validation studies. So it's scientifically proven to be a measure of behavioral tendencies in the workplace. So what I like about this is that it still measures a lot of the 4 factors that are similar to Myers-Briggs: collaboration versus dominance, so how independent you are; introversion versus extroversion, so how extroverted you are; drive, it measures patience, so it's drive versus steady pace.
Okay.
So like how you like to work. And then formality, which is like rule following. So with that, it spits out like an actual graph. So you can see where from the midpoint you fall if you really are super extroverted. So like
I like that.
Yeah, my extroversion point is almost off the charts, and it's, I'm very animated. I like to talk with my hands, which I've been doing a lot right now. And things like that, and it shows where you are. So you could be situational.
I've taken that, right?
Yes, you have.
Where am I on the extroversion?
You are more reserved.
But like how far?
It's moderately reserved.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were close to the midpoint on that. But
Okay.
what I thought was really funny is like we took it, you and I, and like our points are polar opposites of each other. They just kind of like zigzag.
You know what they say?
Yeah. What?
Opposites attract,
Yes,
right?
they sure do. Okay, that's what I thought they said, but I thought you had something more clever.
No, I mean that's all I have.
But they definitely do, and I just think it's really fun. Like I do think we balance each other really well, and understanding our PI helps me to understand like that we're just balancing each other. We're not like trying to butt heads. We're trying to just like get each other to understand.
Sometimes I think you're just trying to butt heads though. Is it like even once in a while?
I mean, sometimes I just like to get under your skin and be like, I know this is going to piss him off.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners can relate.
To me getting under their skin?
No. To their spouse just trying to piss them off.
Oh, yes. But like in a jovial way, obviously. So again, I think this predictive index measures more of, it really speaks to that criticism of it really depends on the scenario. It depends how you're feeling when you take the test, because it also spits out a result of what your PI is at the time that you took it, like based on your situation. So it spits out a graph of how you are naturally wired, and then it also spits out a graph of like how you are based on your situation currently taking the assessment.
But how does it, if you only take it once, how does it differentiate between your situation that one time and who you actually are?
It's a different way of that they ask questions. Well, I don't want to like give away too much, because it's
No, I'm trying to game the
no,
system.
no.
Next time I
you
take it, I'm going to
can't.
be super extroverted.
You can't. You can't. There is one more kind of assessment that businesses use, and it's called Strengths Finders. Now it's called Clifton Strengths. Have you ever heard of it?
Yeah. Well, I've heard of Strengths Finders.
Yes. Okay. So that one is also used in, businesses where instead of kind of grading you on a scale of like extroversion, introversion, instead of like the big five, there's a list of 34 strengths that are identified, and you basically take this assessment and it tells you what your top strengths are. And these strengths are all categorized into 4 categories: relationship building, influencing, strategic thinking, and executing.
Okay.
And just for shits and giggles, my top 5 are all in, 4 of them are in relationship building. 1 is in influencing. I have nothing in strategic thinking.
And what was the other one?
Executing.
Oh, okay.
Well,
Well, no, those are all
man.
those are
Man, if
great.
you could see looks on a podcast.
We're recording.
Well, the reason, honestly though, because I have to embrace all of the things about me. When I took this, I was really like disappointed with my lack of, execution and apparently brains. But really what that means is that like I'm able to influence and build relationships with people, to be able to delegate the execution part of it, because other people are just so much stronger and great at the ideas that I have.
So you can execute at the delegation portion.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where I feel more comfortable. Hey, when push comes to shove, I'm sure my 6th strength is executing.
Yeah, they just don't tell you that one, but I'm sure
Right.
it is.
Well, you have to pay a little bit more money, and then
okay.
they'll reveal all of yours. And so for lack of being more disappointed, I did not pay to see the rest of mine, because I just believe in my core that that's my 6th one. Okay, and so the last one that I wanted to talk about, it's super trendy right now. Like if you were to look up any of these personality assessments like on TikTok or Instagram,
The first place I would go to look them up.
I mean, if you're trying to just like learn more about yourself in a snippet of a meme, Enneagram is something that is like so out there. I mean, there are some people like trying to build a brand off of Clifton Strengths, and the fact that they changed their name. But the fact that they even changed their name, it's like hard to find like influencers who talk about, Clifton Strengths. And, there are some people that still like put their 4 letters for Myers-Briggs. But Enneagram, it's just everywhere. Everyone is an Enneagram embracer. And so I took the test, and I am a 3. Actually, this is funny because you took the test too. And this is the only personality assessment where we are the same. We are both 3s. Actually, false. We are not the same, because I'm a 3 wing 2, which means nothing to our listeners.
Or me.
Or you. So a 3 is an achiever, but a 3 wing 2, a 2 is a helper. So I'm an achiever plus a helper. I think you are like kind of on the cusp of a 3, which is an achiever as well, and a 5, which is an investigator, someone who...
I thought you told me I was a craftsman.
Craftsman was with the PI.
Oh, that was... All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get them all confused.
I know. Don't worry. That's why I'm here, hun.
Thank God for that.
Don't worry. So what's weird... Okay, so the Enneagram did not start from war. It stemmed from Sufi teaching, which is fundamentally a method of spiritual transformation. So what I had noticed was a lot of the influencers that I saw posting about Enneagram were very spiritual, faith-based people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I thought maybe the Enneagram was a religion that I didn't know about or something. But so it kind of stemmed from there.
What have I gotten myself into?
I know, and then I had to sell my firstborn. But so it stems from Sufi teaching, but then it's evolved since then. Like Oscar Ichazo also said that he kind of like took the Enneagram teachings, and the 108 Enneatypes just came to him in a divine coma.
What is a divine coma?
I don't know. He said like an angel talked to him. I see, like the origin of the Enneagram personality types is you'll see many different versions. These are all the different ones that I'm trying to pull from and make sense of. It is the most like posted about personality. Like people talk about what their Enneagrams are. There are so many.
Well, that's just a cooler word to say.
I guess. I know. It took me a while to figure out how to spell it. They always do these parallels to pop culture, like which Taylor Swift era is your Enneagram. Mine's probably like Reputation or
Mine's Country, whatever it is. I don't know. Like,
no, it's not which one you like to listen to.
no, I'm
It's
just like
what,
an old soul.
What? Okay, yes.
Yeah. No,
that would be debut. But
okay, it's been so long. Yeah. Come back, Taylor. You know what my 2 biggest criticisms are of personality assessments?
That I love them so much.
Okay, my 3 biggest my 3 biggest gripes with personality assessments.
What?
One is I can never remember what I am, as you've seen,
Yes.
because they're just kind of complicated. Like the letters, like I got to remember all these letters, and like they just don't mean anything, right? Like to me.
They do. Okay. Well.
Yeah, but I got to remember what all the letters are first.
That's why you have me.
Okay, but 2 is they're too positive. Like everything's positive.
I've heard this.
So what I think, so I was thinking like, what could be a better, what's the solution for this, right?
Okay.
All right. So I've got it. Dinosaurs.
What?
Okay. So everyone's a dinosaur, right? And I only came up with a couple examples of this, but I think you're going to love them. All right. So you got your T-Rex.
Okay.
Okay. Your T-Rex, you're type A, right? You're a go-getter. You're going to be very extroverted, probably going to hit your goals and your quota. And you're not really afraid to like step on other people to get where you're going. You can be kind of an asshole.
You
right?
thought of this yourself?
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you. Keep going.
So, that's your T-Rex. Like your
Okay.
your weaknesses are, you can kind of be an asshole. Like you got to rein that in a little bit sometimes, or, you're really going to hurt morale. And you probably won't last very long. People will team up against you.
Yeah.
So that's how they're going to take you down.
Right. That's what they did in Jurassic Park.
Yeah. So then on the opposite side, you've got your Brontosaurus.
Yes.
Right?
Oh.
Which, remember Littlefoot?
Yes. Oh.
So Littlefoot from The Land Before Time,
Yep.
which apparently he's actually called an Apatosaurus now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you're a Brontosaurus, you stick your neck out for others, right? You are loyal. But you tend to hang back. You maybe take the easy wins. You don't go in for the kill. You take like the food that's just up there hanging around. But you let them change your name and you didn't even put up a fight, right? Like
They're dead.
yeah, but still, like no, but I mean, just saying that's the type of like person you are, right? Like, come on, you were Brontosaurus. Like,
Right.
next thing you know, they're gonna go and tell me Pluto's not a planet.
They have. Well, okay, yeah, I'm so glad that you thought of these, and I actually think that maybe businesses should do the dinosaur test instead of...
There's 2,000 of them out there. There might already be a dinosaur personality index that we just don't know about, but this one came to me in a dream, and so I think maybe we should look into it.
I think so too, yeah. Influencers will love it.
But either way, this is a $2 billion market in the U.S., $7.5 billion globally, growing at 12% a year. With social media, I think, this thing could take off, especially if we inject some dinosaurs into it.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Feel free to steal it. May or may not be
so
terrible. Okay, May. I thought we'd do a rundown of the state of name, image, and likeness, or NIL.
Okay.
All right. Have you heard of NIL? Like, do you know much about NIL?
Something about college paying.
Yeah. So basically, until June 2021,
Okay.
college athletes couldn't make money. They couldn't be paid.
Okay.
Right. If they did, there were violations. It was against the rules of the NCAA.
Okay.
With a Supreme Court case and a Supreme Court ruling that came in June 2021, the Supreme Court ruled that student athletes can profit from their name, image, and likeness.
Okay.
And so shortly afterwards, the NCAA, I think starting July 2021, the NCAA changed their policy that student athletes can profit from various uses of their name, image, and likeness. They can do so in things like marketing campaigns, promotional materials, social media posts, events like sponsored events, all different sorts of ways that they can now make money off of themselves because they are an asset to their college or university. Their university is using them to make money, right, and attract people to the school.
They're basically like a brand.
Yeah, they're part of the brand.
Yeah, okay.
They have a limited amount of time at that university. Most of them don't go on to play any sort of professional sports where they're ever going to make money. So, now they can make money while they're at school.
Right.
So it's a really interesting space with this NIL space. There's lots of opportunities for college athletes as well as startups in this space. So I just wanted to talk about a few of those things. First, just to set the stage. So far, 32 states have passed some form of regulation as it relates to name, image, and likeness.
Okay.
So they basically, as a way to restrict name, image, and likeness in some way. So it's not just a free-for-all, right? So usually the states that have passed regulation prohibit student athletes from entering into deals for alcohol, tobacco, adult entertainment, gambling, or controlled substances.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're not trying to be like jerks about it.
Right.
They're just trying to make sure that these potential role models, who kids look up to, are not out there peddling things that are, just bad for people.
Right.
Basically.
Right. I get that.
So the way that this is interesting for startups is these athletes, they go to college and they're like, okay, how am I going to make money off of myself? Or sometimes even before they go to college, right? They're in high school and maybe they're a top recruit or whatever. They need to start thinking like, all right, how do I get connected to the brands that are going to pay me? That's a lot of work to do yourself. So there's these marketplaces out there. There's dozens of them that have cropped up that exist to connect athletes to brands who want to use their name, image, and likeness.
Interesting.
So, yeah, they're the go-between. They're the marketplace. On one side, you've got your athletes. On the other side, you've got your corporations and brands. So just a couple of the bigger ones. One is Icon Source. They've raised over $6 million, according to Crunchbase, as of March 2023. Another one is Mogul, M-O-G-L. They've raised $5.5 million.
I feel like I've heard of them.
You may have. I hadn't heard of any of the specific brands before starting this research. But yeah, like I said, there's dozens of them out there. They're social media organizations, right? They're attracting these college students based on how much money they've raised, who else they've signed as far as brands and athletes, promises of what they can do for these athletes. And there's different business models for the different brands, right? Some charge the brands a transaction fee for every connection that they make, for every deal. Some charge the athlete a transaction fee. Some charge both. Like 10 to 15% is pretty common for what I've seen. Some have a monthly subscription fee for the brands or the athletes for just using their platform. So there's a bunch of different ways that they're monetizing the platforms. It is a huge space. Just in the first year, which was the 2021-2022 year.
Okay, so it's so recent.
Yeah, it just started. So it was already estimated at about $1 billion market size. So the other type of organization that is really interesting in this space are things called collectives.
Okay.
And these collectives are actually associated with a university. They are independent entities formed by donors or boosters that support a specific university. So they're independent from the university, but they're for a specific university's athletes.
Okay.
And they're created to help athletes at their school secure NIL deals.
Okay.
So I'm a donor. Let's say, I want to support Georgetown. I give a bunch of money to this collective because then basketball players who like maybe top ranked recruits are like, oh, they've got a collective with a lot of money. They're going to help me secure deals with Nike or whatever, whatever the brand is, versus some other institution that I'm looking at. Maybe they don't have this same level of support for their athletes and their collective. It is very interesting. And essentially what they do is they provide like a centralized entity to help athletes handle all their business matters. They can help with negotiating contracts and partnerships. They can develop marketing strategies. They can navigate compliance issues because there's going to be more regulation and they need to know like what they can and can't sign on to, that sort of stuff. What do you think about that?
Well, I think it's really great that they're there kind of to help these athletes. I love the business model of like helping them navigate like the business world of these collaborations and sponsorships that they're getting. But there's that, I don't know, like classism aspect to it where, the rich and the wealthy continue to have the better things because of the resources that they're able to put
so like
into it.
classism in terms of like universities having different classes.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that like a
Yeah, I mean,
thing?
so one of the critiques of these collectives, and I think their legality is still kind of being determined, is like they're controversial because they can be accused of stealing recruits from one university just because you might be able to help an athlete make more money because your collective has more money to at its disposal.
Right.
So I mean, but it definitely gives an advantage to the schools that already have, big donor bases. All right. So some of these athletes have made a lot of money already. The average NCAA Division I athlete averaged about $3,700 in the first year of NIL. Okay. So the average was not life-changing kind of money, right? It was just, some extra money to help pay for books and meals and things like that, while you're at college. But some of the top earners made way more money than that. I just want to highlight a few of them. Most of the top 10 earners are college football players. Okay. College football is the biggest moneymaker for sports. Yeah. So it wasn't surprising to read that I think it was like 7 of them came from the college football world.
I would be curious, like which conference also, because there's like certain conferences that are more wealthier and more prominent. Visible. Yeah. Right.
Well, and the conferences are blowing up this year too for football, like with all the change. But so number 1 was actually not a football player. Number 1 is Bronny James. He is the son of LeBron James. I don't know if you could tell.
I know. I was like, that name sounds familiar.
So he hasn't even started playing basketball yet. I also don't know if you knew he was going to be a basketball player.
Shocker.
I think he's 18.
Okay. I thought he was like 5.
No. So he's entering college this fall at USC. He was the 40th ranked player out of high school. So, he's definitely elite, but, he's not the top. He's not the highest ranked player. So it's clearly not because of, that. He clearly has the name. And brands are going to pay for access to that name. So I don't know how they calculate NIL valuation, but his valuation is $7.5 million.
Oh my gosh. That reminds me of like when Michael Jordan's son came to my high school and everyone's like, oh, he's going to be so great at basketball. Like our basketball team's going to be amazing. And he like played one-on-one with like our top basketball player. I mean, granted, there was that age difference and our top basketball player was really amazing, but he just like fell flat basically, and we were all like, oh.
Was that Colin Falls?
It was, yeah. I mean, yeah,
Well, I mean, there's a difference between going into high school and going into college.
True,
though. Like
right.
he's already played against top tier competition. Yeah, like you at least know somewhat of what you're gonna get. Like not for certain, but like I don't think he's gonna go out there and like not be able to shoot a basketball.
I can't say that that's what actually happened, but can you like his valuation in everyone's minds was like
the expectations are super high, right? But I mean, he's already got his own underwear line.
Oh my god!
He's just right now he is the summer going. He's basically a high school student.
Yeah, with his own underwear line, man.
So number 3 on the list, staying on trend here, Arch Manning.
Peyton.
Okay.
Eli? Joe?
Okay. I think he's actually Cooper Manning's son, who is one of the brothers. Okay. But so he is
like the lost third property brother.
Sorry. Is there really a third property brother? No, I don't know. So Arch Manning is the nephew of Peyton and Eli. Oh. He has an NIL valuation of $3.5 million, apparently. He's also going to be starting college this year at Texas.
Okay.
So, we'll see where that goes. He is a quarterback.
Well, I mean,
it's in his genes.
I guess. He doesn't have to be great. I mean, look at Eli.
I agree with you there.
I mean, he could be good at acting like his uncles, and that's another.
Eli was a good quarterback, obviously good enough to win 2 Super Bowls on flukes.
Sure. Yeah, that's what a Patriots fan would say.
All right, so those are the first 2 I wanted to highlight, but there's one more that I think is even more exciting.
Okay.
So those 2, Bronny James and Arch Manning, have their NIL valuations based on expectations and their name, right?
Of course, yeah, their blood.
Yeah, exactly. But the third one I wanted to talk about, she is number 6 on the list. Her name is Olivia Dunn. Do you know who Olivia Dunn is?
Dunn?
D-U-N-N-E.
I'm trying to think like who. Oh, I'm trying to think like who she could be related to.
No, she's not related to anybody.
Oh, she's just
Well,
talented on her
I'm
own.
sure she has relatives, but she's not related to anybody famous that I know of. So Olivia Dunne is a gymnast at LSU. I think she's a junior or going to be a senior or something like that.
Okay.
She has an estimated $3 million or so NIL valuation.
I'm looking her up.
She is the most followed college athlete.
On social media?
Yes.
Or like physically followed by a crowd?
That too, actually.
Really?
So, all right. So I wasn't even going to go there. But so on social media, she has 4.3 million Instagram followers, 7.7 million TikTok followers. And this is where our algorithms diverge, apparently, because I have been fed Olivia Dunne in my Instagram. I don't make the algorithm.
What are you searching?
That's not the way it works. Anyway, I don't get Enneagram stuff and, whatever else you get. I get Olivia Dunne in my feed. And so,
Look at you.
Thank you. So, she's not up there because of the expectations, right? She's up there because she's a talented athlete.
And she can arch her back really far.
Yes, she's attractive. And she knows how to do social media, right? Like, she gets on there. She does these posts, a lot of them. And
I can see.
People love her. So when I said most followed, it is actually kind of scary. The number of college boys, college men that follow her around. Like, I think she legitimately has to fear for her safety. I read an article recently that she can't even go to class in person anymore because she's afraid for her safety.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks, like, to not be able to go to class and fear for your life. I mean, I can't, I'll never be famous enough to know what that's like, but...
Yeah, but remember when you were on the dance team? In 2007, we made the Final Four, and there was that, like, bracket of, like, cheerleaders and dance team members at the different schools, and you were the Georgetown representative in the bracket, and you made it pretty far, and I remember, one of the comments was, I like the ethnic-looking Hoya chick.
I was the ethnic looking.
Did that scare you? It sounds a little scary to me.
No, because they weren't following me to class.
You never know.
It was some rando on the internet. But
You probably went to Syracuse.
Oh, the orange. That's funny. Yeah, that was on Deadspin.
Oh, Deadspin, yeah.
Well, that is crazy to me that she's up there. She knows how to do social media. She can work it. Like, that's actually a skill that I feel like this coming generation is really leveraging for as income, and I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that these collectives should be able to help these athletes with is, maybe social media training for people who don't have the natural ability that Olivia Dunne has.
Yeah, for sure.
So just looking at the future of NIL, for a long time, all of its history, basically, the NCAA fought against paying college athletes, right?
Yeah.
Now they're being forced to allow it, but they want some guardrails on the process. So they want legislation to make sure it's a level playing field. As I mentioned, 32 states have some sort of restrictions, some more than others. Some have no restrictions. Some of the universities in certain states feel like, the restrictions in their states are, maybe more so than some of the other states.
Yeah.
They just want to be treated fairly, right? So that,
Right.
They're all on a level playing field,
To
which
be
makes
like
sense.
a little bit more like uniformed.
Yeah. And, nobody wants to violate a rule that they didn't really understand. So like the NCAA is pushing for federal legislation on this so that it's not up to every state to police it differently. And, I think that makes sense. There should be, the NCAA is the governing body of college athletics in all the states. So like the policies
should be streamlined.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's good. It's so new that I'm sure there's still a lot of kinks to iron out.
It's brand new. They'll get there. I think overall it's great. Athletes are making money.
Yeah, I know, because for a while athletes were feeling very like exploited.
Yeah, definitely. These universities make millions and millions of dollars off of the athletes.
Right.
And until 2 years ago, the athletes didn't see any of that they didn't see any of it from the university. The only way they saw any of it is if they were fortunate enough and talented enough to play professional sports. And depending on which sport they play, there may or may not be a lot of money in professional athletics for that sport. Right. So it's great to see athletes in sports that don't traditionally make a ton of money when you go pro be able to earn an income that's going to set them up pretty well.
Okay, now let's talk about our hot mom of the week. We still don't have sound effects for that. Pew pew. We're a series now, and we don't have sound effects for our Hot Mom of the Week.
I can look for some.
Okay.
I'll come back with some suggestions or throw some my way.
So we were talking about the Enneagram and just how trendy it is right now. You know, how much these influencers really latch on to identifying with an Enneagram and, you know, posting memes and tying it to a lot of like pop culture references. So the person that stood out to me, her handle is Enneagram Ashton. She definitely has more of an Instagram following versus TikTok. I think she's very new to the TikTok scene. She started her Instagram in 2019, so she's pretty new, but she already has 600,000 followers. Wow. Because what she posts is like so on brand with, you know, the pop culture scene. She's the one that does like the cute little infographics on, you know, like understanding your Enneagram.
Is it like funny, or like how does she get 600,000 people to follow her?
They're just informative and they're very relatable. So she's an author, a public speaker, and she's a community psychologist and a certified Enneagram educator. Her goal in life is to see relationships strengthened. And that's why she kind of started her social media presence. Early on in life, she was working in the domestic violence and sexual assault prevention field. She knew, like at an early age, she's an Enneagram 2, so she's a helper. So she always knew that she wanted to help people. Yes. And, you know, she went to get her master's degree in psychology, and she discovered the Enneagram that way, and she kind of just built her brand off of it. She actually gained a lot of followers recently, she said, when she kind of posted more personal things, like started showing her face more and like letting people into her life with her new baby and things like that. So her brand turned more from just being this Enneagram teacher to a human that people could also relate to. So she's hot. She's trending. She knows how to work social media. So she is our Hot Mom of the Week.
Go Ashton.
Yeah, follow her on Instagram, Enneagram Ashton.
Well, that's all we've got today. If you enjoyed the episode, hit the subscribe button.
And reach out on social media.
.coms
And Hot Moms.
Signing off.